North Korea is in the middle of its year-end key plenary meeting, reflecting on 2023 and planning for 2024. On the second day of the meeting on Wednesday, the leader Kim Jong-un apparently proposed a militant task that would speed up war preparations. Let's turn to Dr. Mark Barry for more. Welcome back, Dr. Barry.
Yeah, good morning. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Dr. Barry, Kim Jong-un reportedly called 2023 a year of great turn and change. And he also proposed a so-called militant task that would accelerate war preparations. What do you think he means by those comments?
Well, it's been an important year for North Korea to show what it can do, that it has not gone under from all the stresses of the pandemic and the economic difficulties, and they had a particularly relatively good harvest this year. But you know, the thing that I think sets the tone more than anything is in his speech from Tuesday, where he talks about the dignity of proving that they have the dignity of a genuine power and the fame of a strong one, and talking about the importance of independence, which is a very important word, self-sustenance or self-reliance, and self-defense. So this is what they're really about. And if you see that as the core of how North Korea sees itself versus the world, then you could see how everything else springs from that. The phrase that you mentioned about the great political and military situation, and it's reached an extreme due to the anti-DPRK confrontation moves of the U.S. and its vassal forces, which Kim claims is unprecedented in history. Well, it's unprecedented in his term of office, and probably in his father's term of office, but certainly not in his grandfather's term of office, who led the North through the Korean War. But it's reflecting a very, very stressful environment. But I think the fundamental value that Kim is trying to achieve is to maintain independence. Because when you're weak, whether it's militarily or economically, others will take advantage of you, and that will mean the end of the regime.
Definitely. And these comments are just a fraction of the meeting that is expected to last for the entire week. But what we do know is that Kim Jong-un will deliver a message, at least at the end of the meeting, or even a New Year message. Now, Dr. Barry, what kind of policy directions do you think to come out of such a speech, if there is one?
I think there probably will be, because it's been a pattern since 2020, and it seems to have worked. Although he's not afraid to speak in public, and I'm sure excerpts will be shown on Korean Central Television, but I think what we've seen in the past 2 days will probably culminate in a speech that will address more specifically the goals of 2024. And by the way, all throughout these summaries of remarks that we've seen, they're halfway through a 5-year plan. And what Kim is saying is, hey, we're doing pretty good. I mean, by their standards and by the propaganda value that it has to say that they're halfway through. So we can presume that they will continue to develop missiles and to develop all sorts of other defense preparations. And it's very astutely done to be as cost-effective as possible, and particularly to project a larger image. Because, for example, yes, it was a successful satellite launch in November, but nobody would say that the image resolution of the satellite is worth anything. You know, they can buy it online, you know, from a commercial company.
Right.
So, you know, but we can pretty well see where he may be headed in his speech. But the important thing is that maybe there'll be some clues for the U.S. In the speech, because he's aware it's an election year, and he doesn't know who's going to win. He doesn't know who's going to ultimately prevail, and what sort of processes may happen even after the election that will create confusion. And the U.S. has been through that several times. So Kim may dangle a few things in a very clever and astute way, because he doesn't want to he wants to hedge his bets, basically, and to make sure that he preserves his interests no matter what happens in the U.S.
But we should probably expect those messages to South Korea and the U.S. to be not so friendly either this time, right?
Oh, yeah, because he has to come across that way, But I have to say one thing, which is that there are certain statements made, particularly by the ROK recently, that have not been helpful. And actually, the most unhelpful one is a surprising one, which is a statement from I guess, the press spokesman for the Unification Ministry, that the ROK would go after human rights violators in North Korea. Well, anyone who's a government official is a human rights violator by a certain definition. So when you make a statement like that, and if you broaden its application, this is basically telling North Korea, much like Israel tells Hamas, wherever you are, we will find you, we will get you, and don't think that our country will come to an accommodation at some point with you. You will not be safe, and we are going to go after you. That's the implication. So if that's the kind of rhetoric coming even from a low-level spokesman for one of the ministries, you can understand why the Marxist-Leninist, Kim Il-sungist rhetoric is at this fever pitch that you see in these excerpts of the speeches.
Definitely. Dr. Barry, I'd like to touch upon what lies ahead for North Korea. Next year in 2024, Kim Jong-un, the leader, also turns 40. And it'll also be 12 years since he took power. Any thoughts on these? Yeah.
I think 40 is a fairly significant number in Asia, maybe not quite as important as 60, but it tells one thing, which is I'm not a kid anymore. When he took office in December of 2011, all the North Korean experts, or almost all of them in D.C., were saying this guy's not going to last. He's too young. They're not going to take him seriously. And he only had a year and a half or so to prepare because his father was hedging his bets about whom to choose as his successor, which now helps explain why, by the way, the Jue is being brought forward. Even if she's ultimately not the successor, he wants to give a lot of lead time for her. So if we fast forward to now, it took him a couple of years to prove his merits, so to speak, and he had to get rid of a couple of people like his uncle in a way that ideally should not have happened in the terrifying way that it did if there had been more time for preparation. But I think, having from 2018 and 2019 met with the South Korean president, met 3 times with President Trump, several times with President Xi, and twice with Putin, including this year, then he's shown I play with the big boys. I swim with the big fish. So it's a way of saying I now have to be taken seriously, and I'm now in a position to be able to set up my prodigy, my children, those from the Kim Il-sung bloodline, as potential successors, even though who the ultimate one will be, only time may tell.
All right, Dr. Barry, thank you so much, as always, for your insight. You enjoy your evening there.
Okay, thank you so much. Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year.